Okay, we're live.
Five. Just looking for that footnote 5. There's 4. Just give me a moment to find that little. Oh, I see. Okay. 1, 2, okay, so 5. Let's see what that is. It might be that he didn't put it in the text. The footnote 5, can't find it. Trying to find out where it's. Right. Okay. Well.
But it's straight after the one where you stopped at.
Yes.
Page 70, 185.
Yes.
The fifth footnote is there.
Yes, but where is? I don't know where it is in the text.
Oh, but you pointed the right.
I can't find it.
Oh,
I don't think it's here. There's no 5, so I don't know where it comes in, but I can just read it anyway. Okay, let me just. Okay, I think the best thing to do is start and just read that straight away. That. Okay.
Tridaṇḍī Mahārāj.
Okay. Tell me when it's ready then.
It's ready. Right.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes.
Oh.
On time ready here.
Oh. Continuing the reading of In the Light of Loving Devotion by Srila Bhakti Rakṣaka, Śrīdhar Dev-Goswāmī Mahārāj. And we've read chapter 14, Association of the Holy. And before we go on to chapter 15, there's a footnote relevant to what Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj has been saying in that chapter. In the theology of the Christian tradition, there are three cardinal virtues: faith, hope, and charity, or love. One writer has helpfully described their interrelation as being like a plant growing towards God. Faith is the seed, hope the stem, and love the flower. But the virtue of hope does not mean just a kind of optimism, or hope in the ordinary sense, as meaning, I'm not sure, but I hope. Theologically, it means looking forward with absolute confidence in the expectation that God will give us everything which is necessary to bring us to the end He has in view for us. And hope has two parts, or constituents: courage and perseverance. In the Vaishnava tradition, a similar idea is expressed succinctly in Srila Rupa Goswāmī's Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, in which, in 11 verses, he offers a blueprint of essential principles to be followed if a practitioner is to really advance in Krishna consciousness. In verse 3, out of 6 principles, quote, favourable to the execution of pure devotional service, unquote, the first 3 he gives are: 1, being enthusiastic; 2, endeavouring with confidence; and 3, being patient. Utsahan nischayad dharyat. It is hope, through grace, which brings a soul through all trials and difficulties, with courage and perseverance. In other words, it gives confidence and trust in God. No wonder then that St. Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, 8:24, we are saved by hope. Now beginning chapter 15, devotion, real and apparent. The eye to see devotion. A devotee asks, since the Vaishnava does not want to exhibit symptoms of devotion, how does one detect the pure Vaishnava, one who is on the highest platform? Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj, the judgment, the decision as to who is a Vaishnava is not by the physical feats. They may all be deception or imitation. The footnote here, Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj is referring to the physical feats in imitation of genuine spiritual symptoms of pure devotion, such as may be manifested in the highest stages, tears, shivering, fainting, and so on, which certain yogis and sadhus and supposed jivan muktas, liberated souls, sometimes project, usually to attract name and fame, followers, etc. Some persons can be quite expert in artificially producing such symptoms. Indeed, even accomplished film or stage actors can do so. And for the inexperienced, it can be difficult to know or to detect if such things are genuine. A devotee of higher type does not like, however, to publicly show any such symptoms. However, they may on occasion spontaneously or uncontrollably manifest physically due to their overflowing ecstatic inner condition of love for Krishna. Back to the text. Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, there are other things we can recognize. There must be some intrinsic signs, a real conception about the Absolute, detachment from everything else, and earnestness for service to Him. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatra. And in the note it's giving this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti pareshanubhavo viraktir anyatra chaisha trika eka kala prapadyamanasya titashnatarshus tushti pushti kudupayo nugasham. Quote, direction, devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger come simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. Back to the text. When one first enters into the study of a particular science, then he should come to know who is an expert in that science. Initially, however, an artist or a sculptor cannot recognize the intricacies of that science or its stages of advancement. Similarly, the bona fide student of a particular spiritual school, with the help of an expert, will be able to understand what is what in that line, that department. One who is a student of the Bhagavat school must be bona fide, and his study must be in the connection of a true Vaishnava. The standpoint, the angle of vision to see things properly, must come from that side, from the Vaishnava. And the student's eligibility is Shraddha, faith. That is bhagya, auspicious. He has good fortune, sukriti. Krishna bhagya iva shraddha yadi hoy. And because of this, he will not think that in his spiritual quest he has come on any wild goose chase. Rather, he will think, O Vaishnava, you have left all the concrete things, all the supposed concrete prospects of this world, and you have come to know that which is almost unknowable. I see that you have spared time, have given sufficient time for this. For what seems so vague, so abstract, so unknowable, you are leaving all the concrete things of enjoyment in the world. And so he will inquire of the Vaishnava, why have you taken this course? And how, in what way are you doing so? Selection and elimination. The students of this school are also to be examined, to be tested, and some will be rejected. Just as so many students will send in their application to be admitted in the college, but when they take a general examination, all do not pass. Many may be eliminated, and a selected few will be accepted for study. Similarly, this is the test of faith. You may have, in a general way, left the so-called concrete things for the abstract, but for what sort of abstract? What is it that you are searching for? And what mundane touch do you have in your mind, in your aspiration for that? That will be examined. In this way, there is always selection based on the purity of purpose. Your ideal, is it high? Is it the highest goal of your life? And how much are you prepared to sacrifice for that? Have you got so much faith in that ideal that you are ready to become a slave, ready for eternal slavery to that? Your addiction to the ideal, the intensity of your reverence, the degree of your dedication to it, is it such that you are ready to pay that price to purchase it? This will be the test. The zonal visa. One who is living in that plane of your highest ideal, will come and examine you. And he will give a visa accordingly for you to go from door to door in different zones in the spiritual realm. With this visa you can go to Vaikuntha, or with this visa, with more sacrifice, you can come to Ayodhya, to Dwarka, to Mathura, to Vrindavan. In this way the zonal visa will be granted to you by examining how far you can render service in such intensity as it is demanded from that particular quarter. And the footnote here, Srila Guru Maharaj's expression, going from door to door in different zones, means the soul who has been granted a visa to go to a particular spiritual plane can then move freely within that realm for his service. Back to the text, a positive serving life. Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami that for getting devotion of Krishna, if it is demanded that in a minute or in a second you are to undergo death crores of times, that is also not the proper price. Sanatan deha tyage Krishna jodi paye, koti deha kaneke tabi chadite pariye. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Anchalila 4:55. My dear Sanatan, he said, if I could attain Krishna by committing suicide, I would certainly give up millions of bodies without a moment's hesitation. He mentioned here a crore of bodies. So 100,000 equals to 1 lakh, and 100 lakhs equals 1 crore, which is 10 million. So that's a lot of births. Still, for the satisfaction of Krishna, if it is necessary that you will have to give up your life, your unit of sacrifice, crores of times, are you ready for that? All our attraction is concentrated in this body. Our attraction for enjoyment in this world depends on this body. It is centered there. And even if one is ready to sacrifice this body millions of times, that also may not take us to that domain. Domain is the divine abode of eternal service to Krishna. What then is the real standard of sacrifice? We are to begin by considering this point. What kind of sacrifice is real sacrifice? It is not only that we are to dismiss wholesale our attraction for the mundane, but there must be positive appreciation for the serving life. So the advice is, go slowly, but surely, with Shravan Kirtan. Your practice of hearing and chanting about the Lord, that is the only path to attain Him, and not by showing your heroism of any mortal type. Soldiers who are prepared to sacrifice their life, who do not care for physical death, in them also we find a kind of surrender. But what for? It is for fame, or in one form or another for some mundane end, but all in the relativity of the mundane world. Or in the case of insanity, when someone is mad, he does not know what is good or bad. He may act in any way, do anything, and may die. So both from ignorance or from necessity for mundane ends, for mastership or fame, we may find apparent surrender, sacrifice, but all are only connected with this mundane world. Service of the Vaishnava. Our aspiration to the ideal, the higher ideal in the plane of dedication, and the purity of that aspiration, that is the criterion, and that should be considered to be the unit which is required from us for our admission there. Such aspiration comes from Shraddha, faith. Ado Shraddha, the beginning of the path of surrender is faith. And faith is born from Sukriti, good fortune, and that is independent of us, Agyata Sukriti. It comes by the grace of the higher world. Devotion, bhakti, cannot be produced by anything mundane, but only bhakti can produce bhakti. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.31. Bhakti is ahoituki, causeless. None can produce it, but only bhakti can extend herself. The cause is in the upper world. It cannot but be so, because bhakti is not a product of this material world. We are only to try to utilize that fortune, that grace of bhakti, and to serve. So very cautiously, relying on the Vaishnava, and with the innermost sanction of our heart, we are to try to make progress. We are to surrender to and to serve the Vaishnava. Nothing should be done without the order of a Vaishnava. Vaishnavera ogya kajya kori. strict to the extreme. There was a disciple of our Guru Mahārāj, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and on this point, that we won't do anything without the sanction of a Vaishnava, that devotee was so serious. He was so strict on this principle that many thought it too much, too extreme. On one occasion, he was to go by train with some other Vaishnavas to a certain place. When all the devotees got up on the train, he remained standing on the platform, because no Vaishnava had ordered him to get into the carriage. That disciple's name was Professor Sanyal, Nishikanta Sanyal. He was a good scholar and the head of examinations at a particular university. He also wrote the book Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and he was the editor of the Harmonist Journal at that time. He had so much adherence to this idea that without the order of a Vaishnava, I won't budge an inch. It was his general motto of life. He gave so much importance to the Vaishnava. There is another incident with him in this connection that I remember. When the mutt was transferred from a rented house to its present location, its own property at Bag Bazar, Kolkata, the deity was carried in a chariot and placed in the new temple. There was an utsav, a festival, and the feeding of the devotees and the public, and we went to our beds at around 1 o'clock that night. As we had newly entered that house, we all simply took some place there and spread our beds. My bedding was just beside that of Nishikanta Sanyal. During the night, he felt at one point that he was dying, and in the morning he told me very slowly, "Last night I felt my heart was failing. I thought I should wake you, rouse you, but I knew that you were very much tired, and I should not disturb a Vaishnava in his rest. I thought, he has worked hard all day and half the night. He is so tired and he's sleeping. I should not disturb him. Let me see if this crisis will go away." Anyhow, that crisis has gone, but still I'm feeling very weak. I knew that he was a very serious man, not ordinary, and immediately I told Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Mahārāj, what he had been saying to me, and straight away the doctor was arranged for him. Yours is not the judgment seat. So that Professor Sanyal was of such serious character. Even dying, he does not like to disturb others' sleep. And he won't do anything if not ordered by a Vaishnava. It is an example, though extreme. He was my senior, a little senior, and once he told me, to me particularly, if I read Srimad Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrita of my own accord, it won't be bhakti. It will be karma or jnana. But if a Vaishnava orders one to go on with the reading, it will be devotion. Do you follow? Devotee says, yes. And Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj says, otherwise you are reading to acquire knowledge, and that is not service. To acquire knowledge, to keep your position high, to help you to deliver lectures, to receive appreciation, this is all mundane. But if strictly the whole of your energy will be spent on carrying out the order of a Vaishnava, then it will be service. So you are to practice in this way from the beginning, that you are not acting for your own interest, but acting on the order of a Vaishnava. And you won't go to occupy the position of a judge in your own case. You are not to be the judge of your own crime. That is, you are not to take part in giving the order as to in what way you are to utilize your energy. You must be quite disinterested. The order must come from above, and you are to serve it. Purest intention. Your energy must be utilized always for the Vaishnava's interest. And if you make yourself your own judge, you will always give judgment in your own favour. That possibility is there. Laughter. But we should try to have self-abnegation to the extreme, and the judgment must come from the other side, from the Vaishnava, whether you are dedicating or in the guise of dedicating, you are enjoying, you are out to exploit. This is a very subtle point, because exploitation in the higher plane may not seem from the gross plane to be exploitation at all, and this is difficult to discern. Just as a capitalist may give, he may spend much money for someone or for some cause, taking it from his own purse, but with the far sight, the intention that he will get 1,000 times more money in return. So ostentatious self-distribution is not self-distribution at all. It is not service, not real service. It should be judged from another side, another angle of vision. The intention, how much it is self-centered or center-centered. And now chapter 16, the real standard of sacrifice. Don't be a make-believer. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na prema gandosti darapi me haro, krandami sobhagya bharam prakashitum. And in the footnote, it's giving this verse in its full form. Na prema gandosti darapi me haro, krandami sobhagya bharam prakashitum. Bangshi vilash ananya lokanang vina. Bibharmi jat prana patanga kang brita. From Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 2:45. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, My dear friends, I have not the slightest tinge of love of Godhead within my heart. When you see me crying in separation, I am just falsely exhibiting a demonstration of my great fortune. Indeed, not seeing the beautiful face of Krishna playing his flute, I continue to live my life like an insect, without purpose. And back to the text. What standard of sacrifice is shown here? Mahaprabhu says, I'm crying, shedding tears so much, but it is only for fame. Oh, just see, I have so much love for Krishna. Only to attract people towards me, I'm shedding tears. It is all artificial. Mahaprabhu has raised the standard of sacrifice, the standard of real devotion so high. And we are to think, where are we? What does this mean for us? So don't be a make-believer. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has expressed in his song, Pratana Lala Shamai, the mood of a genuine devotee. Kripa Kara Vaishnava Thakur, Sambandha Jhanya Bhajate Bhajate, Abhimanna Hodur, Amita Vaishnava e Buddhi Hoile, Amani Nahaba Ami, Patisthasha Asi, Hridaya Dushibe, Hoiba Niyaragami, Tomar Kinkor Apane Joniba, Guru Abhimana Tyaji. Tomar Uchishta Padajjala Renu Sada Nishkapate Bhaji, Nije Shreshta Jani Uchisthadi Dane, Habe Abhimana Bhar, Thoye Shishyatava Thakiya Sarvada, Na Loiba Pujakar, Amani Manada, Hoile Kirtane, Odikar Dipetumi, Tomar Chorani, Nishkapate Ami, Kondya Lutiba Bhumi. He says, please give your mercy to me now, O revered pure devotee, O Vaishnav Thakur. Then only my false ego will go far away by my constant worship in full knowledge of my real eternal position. If I falsely think that I am a Vaishnava, then I shall look forward to receiving respect from others. And if the desire for fame and reputation pollutes my heart, then certainly I shall go to live in hell instantly. renouncing the false conception that I am a guru. I will understand myself to be your humble servant. I sincerely worship the remnants of your food, O pure devotee, as well as the water that has washed the sacred dust of your lotus feet. By giving others the remnants of my food, I shall consider myself superior and shall be burdened with the weight of false pride. Therefore, always remaining your surrendered disciple, I shall not accept worship from anyone. If you will bestow upon me the capacity to chant the holy name, I will then give all honour to others without expecting any respect for myself. Thus I will sincerely weep in ecstasy while rolling on the ground at your lotus feet. We are always to live in the relativity of the spiritual master as Vaishnava Das, servant of the Vaishnava. Then whatever we do, anything and everything will be only on the order of the Vaishnava, the superior. Always we must connect ourselves with some higher dictator. And a footnote here. It says, the nomenclature dictator has in common parlance evolved a negative connotation to mean a tyrant, one who rules and treats people despotically, controlling and suppressing them through a totalitarian state, etc., etc. Here it is used in its simple meaning of one who dictates to or directs his disciples in service, who guides them spiritually. And it is a loving guidance. Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj often used the phrases, a loving guardian, and the guardian's loving eye is over us. The spiritual master is indeed the real friend and well-wisher of the disciple. His guidance, even when it manifests as tough love, painful for the disciple, because it cuts at and cuts out the promptings of the false self, the egoistic self in him, is coming from his love, not from false ego. This is, by definition, the genuine guru. The guru's mood is actually one of gratitude to the disciple. He is helping the disciples in their service to the Lord, and he feels that the Lord has sent them to him to help him in his own service. If sometimes for the necessary correction of a student who's acting improperly or heading in the wrong direction, practicing or understanding or preaching incorrect siddhanta, the established perfect scriptural conclusions, he has to chastise him. That chastising mood of a superior, a master, is the Guru Abhiman, a particular mood which descends within him temporarily by the will of the Lord for this purpose. It was said of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that he was as hard as a thunderbolt, soft as a rose, soft to the devotees, hard to the God-haters, atheists, offenders, etc. We see in the form of Lord Narayan, in his four hands, differently placed according to the particular divine expansion, the lotus, Padma, and conch, Shankha, for blessing the devotees, and the fire wheel, Chakra, and mace, Gada, for chastising and killing the demons. The Lord, being the absolute truth, is the possessor of all potencies and the Lord of all opulences, which have been delineated in the scriptures as wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, Sad Aishvarya. He thus possesses complete vairagya, detachment, and is equally disposed to all souls who are spiritual parts and parcels of his energy, without particular attachment to any. At the same time, however, he is attached to those who love him, his devotees, so much so that he himself says he has no independence from them, is obliged to them, and is under their control. We see this exhibited by the Lord in his Leela, his pastimes. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed extreme attachment for his devotees, but also on occasion, apparently complete detachment, even indifference. In any case, as the Advaya Gyan, the absolute truth or undivided spiritual substantial reality, his action, whether saving the devotees or killing the demons is the same, in the sense that whomsoever he touches becomes by that contact completely purified, free from all sin, all karma, and thus liberated. But the liberation of the demons, merging into the Lord's body or into his effulgence, and that of the devotees, attainment of eternal residence and service in the Lord's personal abode are different. Actually, Krishna, the original Supreme Lord, Swāmī Bhagavan, and the origin of all Vishnu, Narayan expansions, is engaged in his pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan. The pastimes of killing demons and saving devotees is a function of his expansion as Vishnu. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that he appears in the world whenever Dharma is sufficiently disturbed to protect the devotees and remove the miscreants. Bhagavad Gita 4:7-8. It is the Vishnu aspect or function of Krishna who carries out this task. In Golok, the higher sphere of the spiritual world, Krishna's eternal abode, there are no demons, only rumours of them. Back to the text. If we go on in this way, always living with this principle, we will be safe. I'm not doing any duty independently, but under the guidance of a Vaishnava. We must develop this sort of attitude sincerely within us. Our original thinking, independent thinking, must be buried for good. So don't be a make-believer, a self-deceiver. But there's a footnote here to understand this. This advice surely appears counter-cultural to modern thinking, where a rugged individualism and full independence of thought and action is valued and praised so highly, especially in modern Western or First World cultures. But such independence, when separated, disconnected from the Lord and his service, is ultimately not only useless, but being karma generating is also spiritually injurious. However, when an individual's powers of independent or original thinking, as well as sensual and physical action, that is, his thinking, feeling and willing, are utilized in the service of the Lord, the spiritual master and the devotees, this is in harmony with the Absolute, who is in Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj's frequent expression an organic whole. This is indeed their actual purpose and their glory. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. From Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.12. The senses are to be utilized in service to the master of the senses, Lord Rishikesh, Krishna. Catholic monk and author Thomas Merton, 1915 to 1968, writes of the inevitable imbalance and ultimately chaos which results when the individual, rather than God, is made the centre of all things. Quote, "The aggressive and dominative view of reality places at the centre the individual with its bodily form, its feelings and emotions, its appetites and needs, its loves and hates, its actions and reactions. All these are seen as forming together a basic and indubitable reality to which everything else must be referred, so that all other things are also estimated in their individuality, their actions and reactions, and all the ways in which they impinge upon the interests of the individual self. The world is then seen as a multiplicity of conflicted and limiting beings, all enclosed in the limits of their own individuality, all therefore complete in a perfect and vulnerable incompleteness, all seeking to find a certain completeness by asserting themselves at the expense of others, dominating and using others. The world becomes then an immense conflict in which the only peace is that which is accorded to the victory of the strong, And in order to taste the joy of this peace, the weak must submit to the strong and join them in their adventures so that they may share in their power. From the book Choosing to Love the World, Sounds Time Incorporated, 2008, page 22. And back to the text. But at the same time, we must not be afraid. Krishna assures Arjuna, Nahi kalyanakrit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. A person who performs virtuous actions, O dear one, never suffers an ill fate. If I do not deceive myself, then none can deceive me. The purity, the quality, and not the quantity in the surrender, the way of surrender, that is what is important. To surrender more and more to the Lord, that is self-determination, and it means to die to live, because everything is for Him. Otherwise, He cannot be absolute. I am searching for the absolute, and everything is for Him, that absolute. I must submit to this law faithfully, that everything is for Him, and we also are for Him, and not that He is for us. And that verse, Nahi kalana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati, is from Bhagavad Gita 6:40. The lie in the half-truth. The impersonalists, Mayavadis, cannot flourish here in this truth, this reality. When confronted with it, they want to enter into the prison cell of mukti, liberation, and that is like suicide. They can't tolerate that everything is for Him and that we are also for Him. That this material world, that all we survey is not for us, this much they can find out, that we cannot thrive here in the plane of exploitation and reaction, in the campaign that everything is for me. They can discover this clearly, but they conclude that nothing is for me, so I must go and enter into a suicide cell. But that there is something more, a higher reality, and that everything is for Him, and I am also for Him. They can't accommodate into their brain this broad idea. That is the difference between the Jnani and the Vaishnava. The Jnani can realize that we cannot thrive in the mortal environment. This much, the negative side, they can grasp. But the positive side, the optimistic side, the Lord is there and everything is for Him and not for me, and only there in that plane, in that land, I can thrive. This they cannot understand. The fullest engagement. To die to live, to sacrifice oneself for this high ideal, is real self-determination. It is Swarūp Siddhi. The footnote explaining Swarūp Siddhi, the perfected, true and eternal self. Intrinsic here is the soul's eternal functional service, because in the spiritual absolute world, which is a non-dualistic and yet variegated plane, form and function are one. In the material world, obviously, this is not the case. And back to the text. Mukti, liberation proper, means this. And death means not only of the flesh, but of the Shukshma Deha, the internal subtle body of its different layers. Then further, within consciousness itself, the Chitta, there are many different layers. There is the Vaikuntha conception, the Dwarka conception, and we are to pass through these layers of the purely spiritual plane also and enter into the Vrindavan conception of Krishna. In this way, our risk and our surrender will increase more and more. Our sacrifice must be wholesale, and then we will find our part in the Madhurya Rasa, the conjugal relation with the Lord, the 24 hours per day engagement. Only there is such engagement possible, and that is the highest. Even service in Vatsalya Rasa, the relation of a guardian of the Lord, cannot give this. To say so may seem very harsh, cruel, but it is so. It is mentioned in the Shastra, and we also may be able to have some conjecture, some idea about it. So in the footnote here, it says, Srila Guru Maharaj says, it seems harsh and cruel, this conception that only 24-hour full engagement can be in the Madhurya Rasa. Why is this so? This can be understood by considering the nature of the 5 primary rasas, which the soul may have with the Lord, seeing from both subjective and objective viewpoints. In ascending order, they are first peacefulness or neutrality, Shanta Rasa, then servitorship, Dasya, friendly, Sakya, parental, Vatsalya, and conjugal, Madhurya. Each successive relation includes the qualities of the previous one, but in addition possesses its own special quality. Thus, Dasya Rasa, servitorship, includes the qualities of the neutral relationship, a peaceful or passive appreciation of and adherence to the Lord, but with the quality of positive service added. Then after Dasya, servitorship, there is Sakya, friendship, which includes the qualities of both passivity and of service, but with intimacy added, such that the gap between servant and master is crossed. For example, the cow-herding boyfriends of Krishna feel themselves equal to him. In parental or Vatsalya relation, this intimacy is increased further into ever more intense feelings of protectiveness and possessiveness. Those devotees think Krishna to be dependent upon them for his life and well-being. And the Madhurya or conjugal rasa includes the qualities of all the other relationships, but with the addition of its own unique quality. In relations between lovers, there is sometimes peaceful coexistence, sometimes service, there is friendship, also protectiveness, as well as conjugal relation itself. Madhurya Rasa is thus called Mukhya Rasa, the all-inclusive relationship, and Adi Rasa, the original. So from this calculation, conjugal rasa is the supreme and highest relationship, the most full and complete engagement opportunity for the soul in her every aspect with the Lord. Subjectively, however, every soul, in whatever rasa they are situated, is completely satisfied therein, because it is their own eternal perfected relationship with the Lord. They are playing their own unique part in the Lord's pastimes in the organic whole, and that is perfect. Thus, for them, those situated in relationships other than conjugal, to hear that only Madhurya Rasa gives 24 hours engagement may sound harsh or cruel. Is their engagement in service, friendship, or parenthood less than that? Can we think, for example, that Hanuman, the great servant of Lord Ramchandra, the very icon of servitorship itself, is lacking in this regard? And it is also unthinkable that Hanumanji could desire any other relationship with the Lord than as his servant eternally. And still, from the objective viewpoint, the fullest, in Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj's words, 24-hour engagement is only possible in Madhurya Rasa. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swāmī Prabhupada, in his writings, would harmonize the subjective and objective consideration with the expression perfect, more perfect, most perfect. In the spiritual world, everything is by very definition perfect, and yet there is still inconceivably gradation, more perfect, then most perfect, with Madhurya Rasa in this context being the most perfect. This is what Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj would term relativity in the absolute, a concept which the impersonalists or Mayavadis, quote, can never accommodate into their brain, unquote. And the note here says, It is seen in the Shastras that sometimes the Lord himself, encouraging his devotees in their various relationships with him, praises their service as the best, declaring, "No one can satisfy me as much as you can." In practical terms, for those who are engaged in the practice of devotional service, all services are, as Srila Prabhupada would say, absolute, since even while still in the world, their aim is to satisfy, through Guru and Vaishnava, the Lord, the Absolute. In this sense, it is the case that to sweep the floor of the Lord's temple or to cook for him in the kitchen is not less than to directly worship him in his deity form on the altar, or indeed to preach or distribute books about him in the street, or any other services. When he would visit the various temples of his ISKCON society around the world, Srila Prabhupada would praise the devotees. To those servicing Sri Sri Rukmini Dwarkadish in Los Angeles, he would say, "Oh, your deities are the most beautiful." And in London, "Oh, your Radha Landanishvara, they are the best," and so on. And in the text, Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, it is mentioned in the Shastra, and we also may be able to have some conjecture, some idea about it. So here he's referring to the analogy between the material and the spiritual world. So in the footnote it says, that is to say, with the background of scriptural basis for this principle, yet utilizing our own God-given reasoning and intelligence, we can get some understanding of how only in Madhurya Rasa can there be the fullest 24-hour engagement, as explained in the footnote previously. It is understood from the scripture that as the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, so also are the relationships found within it, which, as we've mentioned, are essentially fivefold: neutral, service, friendship, parenthood, and intimate. In the upside-down reflection of a tree found in a still lake, the highest part of the real tree is in the lowest position in the reflection. Similarly, the highest, most elevated and fullest rasa of amorous love, specifically of the parakya, paramour, unmarried kind, in spiritual reality, is seen in the reflection to be the lowest degraded position. And all other rasas are then graded accordingly, with their counterparts, such that in the material world, the condition of shanta, peacefulness and detachment, is the highest attainment, generally, whereas that is but the foundational beginning stage in the spiritual reality. Thus, in the material world, the divine amorous love of Krishna is reflected as kama, K-A-M-A, or lust, the two appearing similar but being of opposite quality. As iron and gold are both metals but of opposite quality, so the quality of prema and kama are opposite, self-giving and selfishness respectively. Srila Śrīdhar Mahārāj expressed it succinctly. They are of distant similarity but categorical difference. As the conjugal relation gives the most complete spiritual engagement for the soul in the spiritual world, so the effects of lust as manifested in sexuality and sexual relations in the material realm certainly constitute the strongest and most binding aspects of the illusory energy, Maya, to which all conditioned souls are subject. Hence the caution in dealing with this aspect of the sensory world, which has been advised by all genuine scriptures and saints. Lust, as the conditioned soul who becomes its victim knows too well, has an all-enticing and all-encompassing attraction, engaging and overwhelming mind and body and all the senses to the point of complete absorption, reducing the consciousness to a point, to the elimination of all other considerations, even sometimes of the approach of disaster or even death. And there are graphic examples in the scripture, such as in the Mahabharata, of this. Ultimately, only the fullest engagement of the conditioned souls in the practice of Krishna consciousness, in association with and under the guidance of true saints, is the remedy for this, proving the truth of the principle that a negative can only be replaced by a positive. Scripture tells us, and practical experience confirms it, that those spiritual paths which attempt complete withdrawal from the sense world through the practice of abnegation and renunciation, penances, etc., without this positive engagement and the consequent attachment to the names, forms, qualities, associates and pastimes of the Supreme Lord which it engenders, such paths of renunciation, though they may give temporary relief, ultimately fail. And back to the text. In Madhurya Rasa, in Dwarka, in Svakya, conjugal relationship, there also this wholesale 24 hours engagement is not present. It is only to be found in Vrindavan. The note here says, referred to here are the two aspects of Madhurya Rasa, conjugal relationship, which a perfected soul may have with Krishna, Svakya and Parakya, corresponding to the Leela, pastimes of the Lord in Dwarka and Vrindavan, respectively. In Dwarka city, Krishna is a Kshatriya prince of the royal order, the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and is married by simultaneous independent expansions to 16,108 queens, each of whom has their own palace, servants and accoutrements. Krishna's relationship to the queens is Svakya, according to the law, according to the religious and social scriptural codes on appropriate behavior for the married state. In Vrindavan, however, Krishna is a gopa, a cowherding boy of the mercantile Vaishya community and caste, who moved from place to place in the fields and forests, grazing cows and producing milk products for use and selling. A simple rural life without the sophistications and prestige of city life. This Gopal Krishna, foster son of Nanda and Yashoda, is the summum bonum, the most ultimate manifestation of God, the Supreme Lord in his Naralila, human-like pastimes. 'Tis here we find his amorous pastimes with the gopis, the milkmaids of Vrindavan, the pastimes of Parakya Madhurya Rasa, paramour love. In these pastimes the girls have husbands, but their exclusive attachment to Krishna is such that, forsaking social and religious codes, they go to satisfy Krishna, their beloved. This spontaneous, unalloyed love for Krishna, the absolute truth and absolute good, represents the highest form of loving service opportunity for the soul. And because it means the wholesale sacrifice of one's life, reputation, prospects, everything, it is most pleasing to Krishna. The exchange of love between the gopis and Krishna is on the platform of prema, purely spiritual love, and has nothing to do with material bodies, lust, etc. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, assuming the form and duties of a sannyasi, a monk of the renounced order, worshipped this gopi bhav, the service mood of the gopis, as the covetable ideal of all spiritual attainments. And back to the text, Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, it is peculiar to the nature of the Parakya relationship there in Dwarka, that though meeting union with Krishna is not always possible, not available always, the internal intensity of those paramours is so great that even in the separation there is union. That's obviously to mean that in the conjugal rasa, in the married state, a meeting or union with Krishna is more available and possible than in the parakya form. Talking about the gopis, their heart is so drawn to Krishna, they are so much thickly and intensely intermixed with him, that even separation cannot dismiss, cannot do away with union. So then Śrīdhar Mahārāj becomes very soft and he pauses Then he starts to softly sing, Radhe Jai Jai Madhava Dayate Gokul Taruni Mandala Mahite. O Radha, O beloved of Madhav, O you who are worshipped by all the young girls of Gokul, all glories to you, all glories to you. Then he sings, Jadi Gaura Nahatta Tabehi Haita Kemani Dharitamde Radhara Mahima Prem Rasasima Jagati Janatake. If Lord Gauranga had not come to this world, then what would have become of us? How could we have maintained our lives? If he had not come, then how could we ever know of the glories of Sri Radha and the highest extent of ecstatic love for Krishna? In the note, this is mentioning about this bhajan. This is the refrain, or the chorus, we would say, in the hymn Sri Radhika Stava, which was composed by the great devotee and spiritual successor of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswāmī. It's part of his compilation Stava Mala, and it's traditionally sung in the Gaudiya Vaishnava temples on Radhastami, the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, to honour her. The chorus, Radhe Jai Jai Madhava Dayate, is sung between each of these three verses. Damodara Rati Vahadana Veshe Hari Nishkuta Brinda Vipineshe. O you who dress yourself in such a way as to increase Lord Damodar's love and attachment for you. O Queen of Vrindavan, which is the pleasure grove of Lord Hari. O new moon who has arisen from the ocean of King Vrishabhanu. O friend of Lalita, Vrishabhanu Nati Nava Shashi Leke, Lalita Shaki Guna Ramita Vishake. O you who make Vishaka loyal to you, due to your wonderful qualities of friendliness, kindness and faithfulness to Krishna. Karunam Kurumai Karuno Bharite, Sanaka Sanatan Vanita Charite. O you who are filled with compassion, O you whose divine characteristics are described by the great sages Sanaka and Sanatan. O Radha, please be merciful to me. And back to the text. Our most loving Lord. What is devotion? Devotion means love, and love means the highest sacrifice, self-forgetfulness in the service of Krishna, who can draw the most, attract the most. And to attain such a plane of complete self-sacrifice and self-forgetfulness in the service of the divinity, that is the stage of perfection. Krishna is the cause of everything, and everything is meant for him. He is the reality, and reality is by itself and for itself. This is a simple statement, a very small sound, but infinite meaning is within it. Krishna says, Aham hi sarva jaganam bhokta cha prabhurevacha. I alone am the enjoyer and rewarder of all sacrifices. It's from Bhagavad Gita 9:24. And the full verse is, Aham hi sarva jaganam bhokta cha prabhurevacha natumang abhijananti tatvenatas chavanti te. I alone am the enjoyer and rewarder of all sacrifices, but being ignorant of my position, the demigod worshippers fall to take birth again. Krishna is Hari, the Lord of all sacrifices, Sarva Jageshvara Hari. And if you realize this, you'll find real peace. Krishna says, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. And Srila Sridhar paraphrasing this verse, I am not a cruel king, but I am friendly to you. I am all in all, but I am friendly to you all. Don't forget this. You are to adjust with this fact, then only can you get peace, real peace. When you come to this fact, this truth, when you adjust to this, then you will get peace. Oh, my interest is represented in the absolute controller of everything in this world. Why should I worry or bother? And the footnote, it says, why should I worry or bother? Means, why should I worry or bother uselessly trying to extract, to wrest my own interest from this world, or feel fearful or apprehensive when or if I fail to do so, because all my real interests are fully taken care of in the service to the Lord. And back to the text. Why should I be apprehensive or fearful? And if it is necessary, and if I get the chance, I shall go to promote him, to make his hands strong, to help his work, and that is service. And this, to explain this, to make his hands strong in the world, that is, to try to help, to be an instrument in establishing the reign of God, Krishna, in the world, to make people aware of him, his beauty and sweetness, and not just as the creator and controller, but as friend, according to this verse, Bhaktaram Jagatapasam. In general, to work to make all people conscious of God, to be God conscious, Krishna conscious. And a note to that note says, it is understood that Krishna can of course effect all of this himself by his simple wish alone. That would be to make the whole world Krishna conscious in a moment. But he likes to use his devotees as his instruments, and this is to their glory. In Bhagavad Gita, just before the onset of battle in the great Kurukshetra war, Krishna said to Arjuna that by his own arrangements all the soldiers present there were already slain, and that he, Arjuna, would be but his instrument to achieve this. Tasmat tvang utishta jashola bhasva jitva shatrun bhunksva rajang samridham mayevate nihatak purvameva nimitta matrang bhavasavya sachin. Bhagavad Gita 11:33. So arise, be glorious, conquer the enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. All these warriors have already been killed by me. O Savya Sachin, you be but an instrument. In this way, while the devotee may receive glory or name and fame for his achievements, he does not become puffed up, proud, because he well knows that Krishna is really the doer. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna reiterates this in several places. He is Parosham Nishu, the ability, literally masculinity in man. That's 7:8. Buddhir buddhimatang asmi, tejas tejasvinam aham. I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the power of the powerful. That's 7:10. Balam balavatam chaham. I am the strength of the strong, without selfishness and attachment. 7:11. Tejas tejasvinam aham, jayosmi vyavasayosmi. Sattvang sattvatang aham. I am the glory of the glorious. I am victory. I am perseverance. And I am the power of truth of the honest. That's 10:36. And then we have Krishna's beautiful admission in 10:34. Kirti shrir vakcha narinam smiti meda druti kshama. Of the feminine qualities I am fame, beauty, perfect speech, remembrance, intelligence, patience and forgiveness, the 7 wives of Dharma. Back to the text. So, Śrīdhar Mahārāj said, if it is necessary and if I get the chance, I shall go to promote him, to make his hands strong, to help his work, and that is service. I am fortunate if he utilizes me in any form of service. This is to enter the current, the absolute current of the world, and it is progressive, it is real progress. But we are in the opposition party. We form an opposition party to the absolute current. We want to create our separate current in our separate kingdom. With this idea, we also combine with others, and then we clash with different currents of different units in the world here. But to join in the absolute current, to be an agent of that current, that is what is necessary for us, for peace and harmony, and for the fulfillment of our life. And at the end of this chapter, there's the verse that Śrīdhar Mahārāj mentioned there, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram. So coming to the final chapter here, chapter 17, Absolute Harmony. Autocratic Absolute. The Absolute is not under any law. He is autocrat. Whatever is against his will is objectionable, and of those objectionable things there may be thousands and more, because he to whom those offences may be committed is infinite. He is not under any law. To think that he is so, to become fixed in such a conception about him, and to think that we ourselves must always follow this idea in our relation to him, that is for the beginners. They should do so, but as much as one will make progress, as much as he will be nearer to him, to that autocratic subject, to the Lord, he will know what is his sweet will and what is not, and he will do accordingly. In this way there is development, progress and adjustment. For the primary class, the beginners, most important is the law, the Shastra. In the middle stage, it is the will of his agents. Whatever is not approved by the Guru and the Vaishnava should be avoided. And in the highest stage, in relation to the Absolute, the whimsical Absolute, whatever he wants, that is what must be supplied. And whatever he does not want, if we do that, it is offence. Do you follow? Devotee says, yes. Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, that he is autocrat means he is not under any law, rather his will is law. The flow of the Lord's sweet will. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada told me, in order to show the difference between karma and bhakti, that if a Vaishnava has ordered me, give me a flower, and I'm bringing a flower to him, and then he says, no flower, give me water. And I say, oh, you already asked for flower, take it. That will be karma. It is to push our will on him. But the Lord is autocrat. He can do and undo. He desired something, and as a servant I was supplying that. But now he does not want that, so I must stop there. I cannot say, oh, you asked for this item first, and with great energy I've collected it, so you must take it. No, he is autocrat. He is free, and his free will is over all. I am Nitya Das, his eternal slave. My position is always to serve him without consideration of law or anything else. He is autocrat, absolute good. Whatever he wants, that is all in all. Whatever he is told at one time, he can change. In the Shastra also he is said, Agyavaivam gunang doshang, mayadishtang apisvakan, dharmang santajayash sarvan, mang bhajet satcha satama. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:11-32. Who is the best devotee? One who can understand that in the Shastra I have given so many orders, still to satisfy me, one who can neglect those orders already given, and can understand what I want, and come to satisfy me, crossing the directions of the Shastra, he is the best of all devotees. So this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:32, The full translation goes as follows. A saintly person perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favourable qualities that purify the performer, and he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living entities. So in this verse, as spoken by Śrīdhar Mahārāj there in the text, talking about following the law, the Shastra, for beginners. Śrīdhar Mahārāj is describing how the Lord is autocrat. That means he's not under any law, scriptural or social, as if he'd been voted into power by the people and so is responsible to satisfy them, to serve their imagined interest, such as is the supposed ideal in democracy. But he's not democrat, he's autocrat, by himself and for himself. In this example of the offering of a flower or water to a Vaishnava, the Vaishnava, particularly or specifically the higher Vaishnava, is understood as a manifestation or representation of the Lord, so his wish is similarly independent and not under law. And the difference between karma and bhakti, karma meaning fruit of action, activity performed with desire for the fruit, which bears a reaction, and bhakti, activity performed for the service and satisfaction of the Lord. And the text, the Master's eye. So it is not a sterilized thing. And the note here says, not a sterilized thing. The Lord's will, his wish, is law, and he can change it at any moment. It's not always the same, repetitive and predictable. Sterilized means that. And Śrīdhar Mahārāj also used the word stereotyped, which carries a similar meaning. Back to the text. What we are approaching, what we are going to deal with, is not anything under law. He is the lawmaker, and his will is everything. He said, let there be water, and there was water, and let there be light, and there was light. That's Book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 3 to 8. He is the cause of all causes, and he is living, and whatever is his desire at any moment, we want to do that. The first-class servant will always look to his master's eye, and whatever he desires in the very moment, he will do that. What he has ordered in the past, he can cancel. He gave that order, and he can cancel it and give a new one. And whatever he will desire from us at the present moment, we shall do that, up to our death. It is not that what was previously done, the old thing, we shall represent that to him. That won't do. That is not devotion proper. Do you follow? Devotee, to some extent, Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, try to understand. It is a clear thing. It is not abstruse. Whatever he has ordered, he can cancel. He can order, and he can cancel the order and give a new order, and that should be done. He has asked a particular section of servitors, do this. Then again, no, do that. And the after order will stand. That is the case everywhere. Even in the material instance, the state makes a law and then they may change that law. Similarly, he is the designer and destiner of everything. We can't put him under any law. We will prepare ourselves with this attitude. Whatever is his demand, I shall supply that. Here there is no question of any law. Even if the order is issued by he himself previously, that won't apply on him. He's not bound by that. So Krishna says, Sarvadhamam parityaja, mam ekam sharanam braja. Full verse continues, Aham tang sarva papebhyo mukshai ishami masucha. Srimad Bhagavad Gita 1866. Give up all varieties of religion and surrender to me alone. Whatever was first ordained by him in the Shastra, do this and this. Now he says, give up everything and come to me. I am above law. And then in the footnote, Srila Maharaj, in his own commentary on this verse in Sri Gita, he says, quote, if one comes to this conception, everything else will be seen as sin. Ahang tvang sarva papebhyo mokshaishyami. Everything conceived of as duty or purity in this material world will be seen as sinful, and all conceptions of religiosity will be reduced to the level of sin. In the absolute plane, everything and everyone belongs wholly to Krishna, and the slightest deviation from this ideal is no better than committing sin. Mere self-forgetfulness leads to impersonalism and culminates in deep slumber. But self-forgetfulness, sarvadharmam parityajya, in Krishna's service, mam ekam sharanam braja, is positive and living. It is the full absolute plane of life. That's part of the commentary. The whole commentary can be found in Sri Gita, the hidden treasure of the sweet absolute. A healthy and holy movement. We should try to make our interest one with the absolute interest, that of the Lord. Both knowledge and power exercising come from our separate interest, a consciousness of separate interest from the Lord. Otherwise, in relation to him, to Krishna, there is spontaneous activity, activity without knowledge, like the operating of a computer, and that is jnana shunya bhakti. That spontaneous activity is in the proper way, the harmonious way. Harmony, in fact, comes from it. Jnana shunya bhakti is itself harmony. They are one and the same. Real dedication to Krishna means such automatic, spontaneous activity. In self-dedication to Krishna, there is no possibility of any cheating or robbing of others or of any division. There is no calculation there, and so no cause for any complaint or necessity of justice or anything of the kind. Only where there is a culprit, a judge is necessary. But in complete dedication to Krishna, automatically the movement is going on smoothly, properly and harmoniously, without causing any disturbance. It is a healthy and wholesome flow, and no clash can be expected from that. It is a perfect, spontaneous, holy movement. In that plane of highest dedication, nothing is lacking. Everything is there. It is complete. Yet there is movement, and it is sweetly and spontaneously performed, a spontaneous flow of love, perfect and most desirable. It is the most desirable thing, and it is all good in itself, because Krishna is all good in himself. He is all good, absolute good, so there's no room for any apprehension, suspicion, or any alternative possibility. The flow of love is smoothly going on. And those who are seen as apparently incompatible with that flow, they are also necessary there, for Krishna's own purpose, for his Leela, because that opposition is motivated by love, just as the mother is seen to apparently punish the child. But in the background, that is motivated by her goodwill for the child. So Yashoda is chastising her son. She's chasing him with a stick. Such cruelty. And the Absolute is afraid. He's crying. But it is Leela. There's no animosity, no feeling of animosity. It is all in the outcome of love. The harmony of dynamic equilibrium. Such movement is harmless, but not merely harmless. It is health-producing, wholesome. What is harmless we may think of as an equilibrium. But if equilibrium can be dynamic, yet producing no disturbance, That is real harmony. Harmony then is movement, but possessing the innocence of equilibrium, and that is healthy. And devotee says, Bhakti is a gift, but at the same time, some subjective endeavour is necessary. And Śrīdhar Mahārāj says, gift of whom? Devotee, gift of the super-subjective? Śrīdhar Mahārāj, Bhakti is self-existent. It is self-existent with God, with Bhagavan. It is his function, his nature, his halo. Bhakti is intrinsically pertaining to him, co-existent with him. He is the whole, the original whole, and that is an organic whole. Different potencies are existing within it. It is not that some part is producing another. It is an eternal, organic, harmonious organism. That is the Absolute. Hare Krishna, Gaur Hari Bol. The end. I actually sort of messed up a bit because it's hard to put the commentary without displacing the flow of the text. So a couple of the small comments I left out, it doesn't matter.
Okay. And it looks very smooth.